My brother smashed my daughter's MacBook Pro M3 because she wouldn't lend it to his son. Then he sneered, "This is what happens when kids don't have a father to teach them manners." My parents didn't stop him. They piled on, calling her selfish and saying she deserved it. My 10-year-old just sat there, tears streaming down her face on the night she graduated elementary school. I stayed silent for the moment. But when they finally realized what I'd done in response, they panicked. All right, YouTube, grab your coffee, because this is some serious family drama you're not going to believe. I'm Teresa, 43. 4 years ago, my husband was killed in a car accident on his way home from work. One moment he was there, the next I was planning a funeral and figuring out how to raise our daughter Everly alone. She was only 6 back then. These days, she's 10, smart as can be, and the absolute light of my life. I run a small chain of 3 convenience stores here in the Miami suburbs. It's not glamorous, but the hours are flexible enough that I can be there for drop-offs, pickups, school events, everything that matters. Everly and I have built a quiet little routine together, just the two of us against the world. What happened that night at her elementary graduation dinner flipped everything upside down and exposed cracks in my family I could no longer ignore. If you're into real family drama with consequences that actually hit hard, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps the channel bring you more stories like this. Trust me, you won't see the ending coming. Let's get into it. To understand why one single night was enough to change everything forever, I need to tell you about my family first. I have an older sister named Valerie. She's 46 now, never married, and she runs a successful freelance accounting business from her home office. From the day my husband passed away, Valerie became more than just an aunt to Everly. She moved in with us for the first few months, handling everything I couldn't: grocery runs, bedtime stories, endless loads of laundry. She was the one who sat with Everly when nightmares hit hard in those early weeks, explaining in gentle terms why Daddy wasn't coming home. Even after she moved back to her own place, Valerie made it a point to be there for every school play, every parent-teacher conference I had to miss because of store inventory, every little milestone. Everly lights up when Valerie walks through the door, calling her Aunt Valerie with that big smile. To me, she's been a lifeline, the one family member who never judged or pulled away during the hardest years. We've leaned on each other heavily, and she's never once made me feel like a burden. Then there's my younger brother Hunter. He's 39, married to Kendra, who's 38. And they have one son, Beckett, who's 8. Hunter has always been the favorite in my parents' eyes, the golden child who could do no wrong. Growing up, it showed in small ways. He got the new bike first, the bigger bedroom, when we rearranged the house, the leniency when curfew came around. As adults, the pattern only deepened. My parents viewed Hunter as the successful one, the son carrying on their legacy with his freelance work, supplying goods to local businesses, his picture-perfect family life. Kendra fit right into that image, always polished, always vocal about their achievements. They treated Beckett like the grandchild who deserved the world, no expense spared. A couple of years back, my parents announced they were treating Hunter, Kendra, and Beckett to a luxurious 10-day Caribbean cruise. It wasn't a milestone birthday or anything, just because they said. The total cost easily topped $12,000 when you factored in the upgraded cabin excursions, onboard spending, and flights. They were thrilled planning it, showing us brochures, and talking nonstop about how Beckett would love the kids' club and snorkeling adventures. Photos flooded our family chat afterward. Sunny decks, fancy dinners, all smiles. It looked amazing, and I was genuinely happy for them at the time. Not long after, Everly started talking about wanting a short getaway herself. She'd been working hard in school and mentioned a weekend at one of the big theme parks in Orlando, maybe 2 nights, a couple of park days. Nothing extravagant. The whole thing would have run me around $1,500 at most, but with the stores demanding constant attention and bills piling up, it was a stretch. I casually asked my parents if they might chip in a little like they had for Hunter's family trips in the past. My dad said money was tight right then after some unexpected home repairs, and my mom agreed it might be better to wait. I didn't push. Instead, I cut corners at the stores, picked up extra shifts myself, and managed a modest version a single day at the park with an overnight stay nearby. Everly had fun, but I caught her quietly comparing notes when Beckett bragged about his cruise adventures at the next family gathering. The uneven treatment showed up in gifts, too. When Beckett earned a good report card last year, mostly B's with a few A's, my parents went all out. They surprised him with a complete gaming setup, a high-end monitor, wireless headset, extra controllers, games, the works. It must have set them back close to $2,500. They presented it at a family dinner, making a huge fuss, telling everyone how proud they were of their grandson's effort and how he deserved something special to unwind. Beckett beamed, and Hunter and Kendra thanked them profusely. For Everly's report card a few months earlier, all A's and glowing teacher comments, my parents handed her a $75 gift card to an online bookstore. It came in a plain envelope, no wrapping or note, just a quick, "Keep up the good work," as they moved on to ask Beckett about his latest video game scores. Everly thanked them politely, always the gracious one, but later that night she asked why her cousins seemed to get bigger things for doing well. I brushed it off as best I could, saying everyone shows love differently. There were quieter moments that added up as well. At family gatherings, Beckett sometimes grabbed whatever Everly had, a drink, a spot on the couch, and Kendra would smile and say, "Boys will be boys," while my parents looked the other way. Hunter rarely corrected it, occasionally adding that cousins should share everything. I bit my tongue most times, not wanting to turn simple get-togethers into arguments. What they never fully acknowledged was how much I'd been carrying financially for years. After some bad investment choices in their 60s, my parents struggled to stay afloat on fixed retirement income. They found a comfortable 3-bedroom house in a decent Miami suburb, but the market rent was $2,500 a month, more than they could handle consistently. I stepped in quietly, charging them only $800 and covering the difference myself through the business. Every month, I also sent an extra $1,000 to their account for bills, groceries, medical copays, whatever came up. It wasn't a loan or something I tracked. It was just what I did to keep them secure. Year after year, that support totaled around $30,000, coming straight from the convenience store earnings. Hunter knew the arrangement. He'd commented once how reliable I was, but he never contributed a dime or suggested splitting the load. My parents accepted it without question, treating it as expected from the steady child. Valerie saw the imbalance clearly and tried addressing it early on, pointing out how one-sided things felt. They'd listen, nod, promise to balance better, then nothing changed. She eventually directed her efforts towards supporting Everly and me full-time. I kept the transfers going month after month, telling myself it was for family stability. Looking back, I see how long I let it build. That all led to late spring this year when Everly was finishing up 5th grade. She had worked incredibly hard all year, staying focused even when school projects piled up and friends were out playing. Her final report card was perfect, straight A's plus notes from her teachers about how mature and helpful she was in class. With middle school starting in the fall, I knew she would need a reliable laptop for research, online assignments, and staying organized. The convenience stores had a decent few months, so I started setting money aside specifically for a MacBook Pro M3. It wasn't cheap, close to $2,000 with the specs she needed, but I wanted her to have something that would last through high school. This was going to be her big graduation gift, something practical that showed how proud I was of everything she'd accomplished on her own. I decided to host a small graduation dinner at our house to celebrate. Nothing over the top, just good food, a few decorations, and the people closest to her. I ordered Everly's favorites, cheese pizza from the local spot she loves, fresh salad, garlic knots, and a custom cake with "Congratulations, Graduate" written in her school colors. For the table, I put up some simple balloons in blue and white, a small banner across the dining room, and fresh flowers from the market near one of my stores. The backyard was perfect for the warm Miami evening, so I set up extra seating out there with string lights I'd picked up on sale. It felt special without being extravagant, exactly what I thought she deserved after such a strong year. I invited 3 of Everly's closest friends from school, and their parents' kids she'd known since kindergarten, the ones who had been there for her through everything. Valerie was coming, of course. She had already asked what she could contribute and insisted on bringing dessert extras. Then there was my parents and Hunter's family. I hesitated about that invitation for days. Part of me wanted to keep it small and stress-free, just the people who consistently showed up positively. But Everly still saw them as grandparents and cousins, and she had mentioned a few times how some classmates had big family gatherings for their graduations. I didn't want her to feel like her side was missing something because of adult issues. So I extended the invite to Hunter, Kendra, Beckett, and my parents, telling myself it was for her sake one evening, where she could have everyone together like a normal family. The night arrived and the house felt alive in a way it hadn't in a long time. Everly wore her favorite sundress, hair tied back with a ribbon, bouncing around helping me set out plates. Her friends arrived first, full of energy, congratulating her and handing over cards they'd made in class. Their parents brought small gifts, books, gift cards to the mall, a cute journal. We gathered in the living room, eating and chatting while the kids ran between the backyard and dining area. My parents showed up next, giving Everly hugs and commenting on how grown-up she looked. Hunter, Kendra, and Beckett came shortly after, Beckett immediately joining the other kids outside. Valerie arrived last, carrying a beautifully wrapped package and a bakery box. She pulled Everly into a big hug, telling her how incredibly proud she was of the young woman she was becoming. They sat together on the couch, Valerie asking about her favorite projects from the year, listening intently as Everly described a science fair experiment that won first place. I watched them from the kitchen, feeling a wave of gratitude. Valerie had picked out an art set with professional markers, sketch pads, and colored pencils, things Everly had been hinting at for months. When she opened it, her face lit up, and she threw her arms around Valerie, thanking her over and over. The two of them spent the next while flipping through the supplies, Valerie suggesting ideas for summer drawings, their laughter carrying through the room. It was one of those moments that made all the planning worth it, seeing my daughter surrounded by genuine care. The evening flowed easily after that. Everyone moved to the table for food conversations overlapping about school memories and summer plans. Everly sat in the middle, beaming as her friends recounted funny stories from class. Beckett played with the younger kids outside, and for a while it really felt like a normal celebration. My parents asked Everly a few questions about her teachers, and Kendra complimented the decorations. Hunter hung back, mostly checking his phone now and then, but the mood stayed light. I caught Everly's eye at one point, and she gave me that quiet smile that said everything was perfect. After dinner came the moment I'd been waiting for. I slipped into the office to grab the box I'd hidden away, wrapped in simple silver paper with a bow Everly had picked out weeks earlier. Everyone had moved to the living room by then, the kids chatting on the couch while the adults finished coffee. I carried it in and set it on the coffee table in front of her. "One more thing, honey. This is the big one." Everly's eyes went wide when she saw the size of the box. She carefully peeled back the paper layer by layer, the way she always does, with presents she wants to savor. Her friends leaned in closer, curious. When the Apple logo appeared, she gasped. "Mom, is this—" "Open it and find out," I said, smiling. She lifted the lid, pulled out the MacBook Pro M3, and just stared at it for a second. The room went quiet. Then she looked up at me, her face breaking into the biggest grin I'd seen in months. "Mom, you got me the new one. The M3, this is exactly what I needed for next year." She stood up and hugged me tight, the kind of hug that made all the extra shifts worth it. Her friends crowded around, oohing and ahhing over the screen as she powered it on for the first time. Valerie snapped photos telling her how perfect it was for all the projects she had planned. Beckett had been hovering nearby the whole time, watching with that intense look he gets when he wants something. As Everly started exploring the setup, he stepped forward. "Can I see it for a minute? I just want to check it out." Everly hesitated, holding it closer. "It's my graduation gift, Beckett. Maybe after I finish setting it up. Come on, just for a second." He pressed, reaching out. She pulled back a little. "No, thank you. I don't want anything to happen to it right now." Hunter looked up from his phone across the room. He set it down and walked over. "Everly, don't be like that. Let your cousin look. It's not a big deal." "It's mine, Uncle Hunter," she said politely but firmly. "I just got it." Hunter reached over and took the MacBook from her hands before she could react. "See, nothing to worry about." He turned it over, pretending to examine the ports. Everly stood up, reaching for it. "Please give it back." Kendra chimed in from the couch. "She's right, Hunter. Let him hold it for a minute. Sharing is important." Everly's voice rose a bit. "Mom, can you tell him to give it back?" I moved closer. "Hunter, that's enough. Hand it to Everly. It's her gift." He rolled his eyes. "Relax, Teresa. I'm just looking. Kids these days get everything handed to them and forget basic manners." The tension started building. My dad cleared his throat. "She's being a little selfish, don't you think family should share?" Everly's eyes welled up. "It's not about sharing, it's brand new." Hunter held it higher, out of her reach. "This is what happens when kids get spoiled instead of disciplined." His tone was sharp-loaded. He shifted his grip and then, as if it slipped but with force, he let the MacBook drop straight onto the hardwood floor. The impact echoed with a sickening crack. The corner dented the screen, flickered oddly when it landed face up. Everly let out a choked sound and dropped to her knees beside it, trying to pick it up. "No. No." The room froze. Her friends stared in shock. Valerie's hand went to her mouth. Kendra looked away. Beckett stood there wide-eyed but silent. My mom spoke first. "Well, maybe now she'll learn not to be so possessive." My dad nodded. "Exactly. Gifts like that come with responsibility." Everly was crying now, quiet tears running down her cheeks as she cradled the damaged laptop like it was broken beyond repair. Something inside me snapped, not loud, not dramatic, just a cold, clear break. I looked at Hunter. "Get out," he scoffed. "Come on, Teresa, it was an accident." "Out. All of you. Now." Kendra grabbed her purse. "This is ridiculous. It's just a computer." My parents stood slowly, giving me disappointed looks like I was the one overreacting. Hunter scooped up Beckett, who hadn't said a word. They filed toward the door without another glance at Everly on the floor. I opened the front door wide. "Don't come back until you're ready to apologize, and even then don't bother." The door closed behind them with a final click. The door closed behind them, leaving only Everly's quiet crying in the sudden silence. I knelt down beside her on the floor, pulling her into my arms. She buried her face in my shoulders, shaking. The damaged MacBook lay forgotten for the moment between us. "I'm so sorry, honey," I whispered, stroking her hair. "None of this was your fault, not one bit." Her friend's parents exchanged awkward glances, murmuring that they should probably head out. I nodded gratefully as they gathered their kids, one of them squeezing my arm on the way to the door and promising to check in tomorrow. Everly's friends gave her quick hugs, looking confused and upset. Within minutes, the house emptied until it was just the three of us, me, Everly, and Valerie. Valerie didn't say much at first. She simply sat on the floor with us, rubbing Everly's back in slow circles. After a while, when the sobs eased into sniffles, she spoke softly. "Let's get you upstairs, sweetheart. You don't need to stay down here with this mess tonight." Everly nodded numbly, letting us help her up. I carried the broken laptop to the office and set it on the desk out of sight. Valerie took Everly to her room, helping her change into pajamas and tuck into bed. I stood in the hallway listening to their low voices, Valerie reassuring her that tomorrow we'd figure everything out, that the computer could be fixed or replaced, that what mattered most was how strong Everly had been all evening. It took time, but eventually Everly's breathing evened out into sleep. Valerie came downstairs and found me in the kitchen staring at nothing while clearing plates automatically. She poured us both water without asking and sat at the counter. "Stay tonight?" I asked. She nodded immediately. We cleaned up quietly, stacking dishes, wiping surfaces, folding chairs from the backyard. Neither of us mentioned what Hunter had said or how my parents backed him. The words hung there anyway, heavy in the air. When everything was done, Valerie made up the guest room and we said goodnight. I checked on Everly one more time before collapsing into bed, myself, exhaustion hitting hard. By morning, my anger had turned into something colder clarity. I woke early, made coffee, and sat with the damaged MacBook. The corner was badly dented, and when I powered it on the screen, flickered with lines across one side. Everly was still asleep, so I stepped outside and called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher listened calmly as I explained what happened: intentional property damage at a family gathering, estimated value around $2,000, home security cameras capturing the whole incident. An officer arrived within the hour, polite and professional. He took my statement, photographed the laptop from multiple angles, reviewed the footage I'd pulled from the system. He asked if I wanted to press charges right then. I said I needed to speak with a lawyer first, but wanted the report on file regardless. He nodded, handed me the case number, and left with a quiet, "Take care." Valerie was up by then, making breakfast, while Everly slowly came downstairs. My daughter looked drained, eyes puffy, but she managed a small smile when Valerie set pancakes in front of her. We ate mostly in silence, me reassuring her again that we'd get a new computer soon, that last night didn't change how proud I was of her graduation. She picked at her food, asking once if Beckett was okay. I told her truthfully that wasn't our concern anymore. Over the next couple of days, the reality settled in. I reached out to Keith, a lawyer I'd used for business contracts at the stores. He cleared time for me that afternoon. We met at his office, where I walked him through everything: the footage, the police report, photos of the damage. Keith listened without interruption, taking notes. "Property damage is straightforward," he said. "With the video, it's clear it wasn't accidental. We can pursue civil claims for replacement cost and possibly emotional distress given her age and the setting." I asked about including the comments made, the pattern leading up to it. He nodded thoughtfully. "That builds context for intent and impact." While there, I made another decision. I logged into my banking app on my phone and ended the recurring monthly transfer to my parents, effective immediately. Then, I emailed my property contact, instructing him to prepare a new lease at full market rate starting next month, with formal notice. Keith raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. He understood this went beyond the laptop. Everly spent those days close to home, quieter than usual. Valerie came over each evening, bringing takeout or helping with light summer reading to keep her mind occupied. We didn't talk much about what came next, but the shift felt permanent. In the weeks that followed, they started realizing the consequences. My phone began lighting up almost immediately. Hunter called, first leaving voicemails I didn't listen to before blocking the number. Then Kendra, then my parents, from both their lines. Texts came through before I blocked those too. Messages ranging from confusion to outright anger, demanding I explain myself and let them see Everly to clear things up. I didn't respond to any of it. Valerie backed me completely, screening her own calls when my mom tried reaching out through her. Everly asked once why Grandma hadn't called to check on her, and I told her honestly that some people needed time to think about their actions. She accepted it quietly and moved on. The most concerning attempt came about 10 days later. The middle school Everly would attend in the fall sent me an automated reminder about registration paperwork. Attached was a note from the office saying someone identifying as her aunt had called inquiring about pickup authorization and schedule details. They followed protocol and verified with me first. It was Kendra. I updated the approved contact list immediately, only myself and Valerie, and informed them of the situation without going into full details. The administrator noted it seriously and assured me no information had been released. Keith moved quickly on the legal side. He filed the civil claim for property damage and intentional infliction of emotional distress on a minor, citing the clear video evidence and the setting of a celebratory family event. Papers were served to Hunter within the week. His response came through his attorney, a standard denial, at first claiming it was accidental, and that pursuing this was blowing things out of proportion for family. We scheduled a preliminary hearing to address immediate protections. Keith prepared thoroughly, compiling the police report, still photos from the security footage, and statements from two of the parents who had been present that night. They agreed to testify if needed, shocked by how the evening ended. When Hunter's lawyer saw the strength of the evidence, the time-stamped video showing the deliberate drop, the immediate aftermath with Everly in tears, they shifted strategy fast. Settlement discussions began almost right away to avoid a drawn-out process. The terms came together over a series of calls. Hunter agreed to pay $9,000, total $2,000 for the MacBook replacement and related accessories, the rest covering documented emotional impact and future counseling sessions if Everly needed them moving forward. It wasn't about the money for me, but about accountability. Keith explained that accepting this avoided a full trial where personal family history might get dragged out more publicly. I signed off. At the same hearing, the judge granted a temporary protective order. It prohibited Hunter from coming within a certain distance of Everly or contacting her directly for 6 months, renewable if circumstances warranted. The judge reviewed the footage briefly in chambers and addressed both sides calmly but firmly. This incident occurred during what should have been a joyful family milestone, he said. Dropping expensive property in front of a child, regardless of intent disputes, crossed a line. The comments made in the moment reflect poor judgment, and the court takes the well-being of minors seriously. He looked toward my parents, who had shown up in support of Hunter. Family dynamics are complex, but enabling or excusing behavior that harms a child isn't acceptable. I hope all parties use this time for reflection. My parents left the courtroom without speaking to me. Hunter signed the papers, looking defeated, Kendra at his side, whispering something I couldn't hear. Keith shook my hand afterward, saying it was a solid outcome under the circumstances, clean, enforceable, and with real financial consequence. Everly didn't attend the hearing. Valerie took her for ice cream that day instead, keeping things as normal as possible. When I got home, she asked how it went. I kept it simple. The grown-ups had agreed on rules to make sure everyone stayed safe, and that was that. She nodded, more interested in showing me a drawing she'd finished with her new art supplies. The settlement check arrived a couple weeks later. I used it to buy the replacement MacBook right away, plus a protective case this time. Everly set it up herself, transferring files carefully, and seemed relieved to have it back. In the months that followed, things gradually changed. My parents received the new lease notice and tried calling a few times at first. When that didn't work, my mom reached out to Valerie, asking if she'd talk sense into me about the rent increase. Valerie listened quietly, then told her the decision was final, and that they should focus on finding something more affordable. That was the last direct attempt from them. They couldn't keep up with the market rate, so after the grace period, eviction proceedings started. It wasn't drawn out. They packed and moved within weeks to a smaller one-bedroom apartment in a less expensive part of the Miami suburbs. No dishwasher, no in-unit laundry, basic amenities. I heard about it through a mutual acquaintance who mentioned seeing them at a grocery store looking tired. They never asked for help moving or anything else. Hunter's freelance work took a hit too. Some of his supply contacts overlapped with local businesses I knew through the stores. Word spreads in those circles, and a couple of contracts quietly dried up. Nothing dramatic, just fewer opportunities coming his way. Kendra ended up taking on more hours at a retail job to cover gaps, shifting from part-time to full schedules. They downsized where they could, but the settlement payment had already strained things. Beckett switched to public school for the following year. The private one they preferred had a waiting list anyway, And with finances tighter, it made sense. He adjusted from what little I heard secondhand. Attempts at reconciliation fizzled out. A letter arrived once from my parents, handwritten, talking about family bonds and forgiveness. I returned it unopened. Hunter tried a new number a few months in, leaving a short voicemail about wanting to talk for the kids' sake. I deleted it and blocked that too. Kendra sent an email apologizing in general terms, saying they never meant for things to go this far. I didn't reply. Valerie fielded a couple of indirect inquiries through old family friends and kept responses polite but firm, no openings. Everly settled into middle school better than I expected. The new MacBook helped with assignments and group projects, and she made friends quickly in her classes. She joined an art club after school, spending time on drawings and digital designs that surprised me with how creative they were. Weekends with Valerie became routine. She'd pick Everly up for sleepovers at her condo where they'd bake or watch movies. Valerie had turned the spare room into a space just for her, with shelves for books and a desk for homework. Everly came home from those visits recharged, talking about plans for the future in ways she hadn't before. We built new traditions too. Friday evenings at one of the stores after closing, counting inventory together while listening to her playlists. Small trips when time allowed, a day at the beach or visiting local markets. Life felt steadier, quieter, in a good way. I didn't win. I simply stopped losing. Looking back, the favoritism and lack of accountability had been eroding things for years. Protecting Everly meant drawing a line that couldn't be crossed again. Some relationships aren't worth maintaining if they come at the cost of your child's well-being. Cutting ties completely wasn't easy, but it gave us space to focus on what actually mattered, a home where she felt safe, valued, and free to grow.